Okay, let's do it. I just started recording, and as usual, we start with US 500, the XY, USDT dominance, Bitcoin, and Ethereum to feed the overall market, and then we'll dive into the other altcoins. Of course, we'll start with NWGC later on. But first, let's start with US 500 and the remaining ones. If you have any questions during this session, feel free to request it or ask it in the members talk. Okay, and later on when I finish the first part, you can also request any altcoin that you would like me to go over. So, as you clearly see, we are currently sitting or retesting a massive support or resistance, a support for US 500, resistance for the XY, support for Bitcoin, and so on, right? So, we can see that US 500 is retesting this area, and we have been in a bearish market previously, impulse correction, and we are currently in this impulse movement. So as an early alert for the bulls to take over, to have a shift in momentum here, for it to be as a correction, so impulse, correction, right? So we are currently in this impulse, and we are waiting for this correction, and inside this impulse, we have what? Minor impulse and correction movements. So for this impulse movement to end, for this correction to start, we need to see a break above the previous high. Of course, like it's very far from the current price for now. So if price forms a new swing high and break it upward, it would signal that the correction is about to start. Now, as an early alert that this bearish movement, a short-term bearish movement inside this giant falling broadening wedge would end, in this case, we'll need to see an equal low or even a higher low. But for now, it's looking good if we see a rejection from here. Of course, unless we break it downward, in this case, we will have one more impulse movement, like pushing lower. So it would be an impulse, a correction, an impulse, a correction, and this impulse usually in a bearish trend would make or would result in a lower low. So yes, we might still have this impulse movement pushing price lower till around the lower brown trend line and also this support zone. In fact, the 3.4, 3.3K is a strong support area as well, as you clearly see here. Resistance previously, now support. It's also the previous all-time high from 2020 and also a demand zone, as we had an aggressive movement upward from this area. Okay, so this is basically it. And from weekly time frame, we had our impulse, a correction, an impulse, a correction, and we are currently here, as mentioned previously. We might still see a lower low before we trade higher. This is why it's very important to monitor the price action here to see if we are going to see a break for this impulse to continue moving downward, which would be also this impulse pushing downward, or this short-term bearish trend would end and we'll have one more correction before the next impulse movement push price lower. That's it from a higher time frame to know where we currently are, what we are looking for. If you zoom into daily time frame, sorry, for H4 time frame, we see that we are stuck inside a consolidation here, and since we have news now, it might be a catalyst to break this range upward. In this case, we'll be expecting a movement upward, or if it drives the price downward, it would be the catalyst to break below this low. In this case, we'll be expecting further bearish movement, and this is the view from H4. It looks so much better. If you want the exact one we saw on daily, a big impulse, a small correction, a big impulse, a small correction, and we are currently in an impulse phase just like these previous two. Okay, so yes, we might still push lower like this, a big impulse till this area. But of course, let's wait for market to make the first move and then we'll react accordingly. Let's see which way we are going to break, downward or upward. That's why you see my alert right here to know when we are breaking above this major high. And that's the high from H1. You can also make it appear on H4 and where you can see it even better. So if we see this break, in this case, we'll be expecting a bullish movement. Previously, bulls took over, bears took over by breaking it again downward, and now we are waiting for the bulls to take over, or if we trade lower, break it downward. You already know the rest of the story, right? So that's basically it. Jabs, hope you're doing good. And we also got Rose and Ishanna. Happy to see you here, guys. Okay, so that's it for US 500. For the XY, the exact opposite. We can see that the XY or USD index is retesting the previous high, previous major high right here around 113, 114. If you zoom out to weekly or even monthly, we can see that we are currently, okay, let me make them appear on monthly. Here we go, appear there. And we don't want to see this one on monthly. Okay, fantastic. So this 113, 114, this area here is a support and resistance. It's a very small one, a minor one. The main one would be around 120. So the exact opposite of like of US 500. We are currently bullish. We can see it from daily better. We got our impulse correction, impulse correction, impulse. Lately or last week had a correction, and now let's see how this one would behave. If we trade higher and break above the previous high, in this case, further bullish movement would be expected. For now, okay, or at least for now, this swing hasn't ended yet. For now, it might result in a lower high. If we trade lower from here, then this swing would be complete. This swing would be complete. We will have a major high. If you have a lower high, it might be an early alert that we might have a potential reversal on the XY. But of course, like nothing is showing weakness for now. Let's wait for the break first. We've got this support and resistance right here around 110, and also this lower trend line in orange. So if we trade lower from here, we need to see this break below this low and below this trend line for the bears to take over, because we can still trade lower and then trade like this and trade higher till around the 120, which would be around this area. Okay, so that's it for the XY. If you zoom into H4, the exact same consolidation we saw on US 500, we can see on the XY as well. And that's it from H1 time frame. We are currently here forming like a double top. Of course, the double top would be an idea until, like, of course, price breaks below the neckline. The neckline is in orange for now. Let me remove this one aside. That's it. Okay, now we can see it better. Okay, so like now let's see what the news will bring us. If we break above these highs here, we'll be expecting, and of course, a daily candle close above this area. We'll be expecting further bullish movement. If we reverse from here, right, and like the FOMC would be bearish for the XY, we'll be seeing this movement. But it might be a fake movement before the bulls take over again. That's why we need to see a break below this previous major low right here to confirm that the bears are taking over. Of course, this is just from a short-term perspective. If you zoom out, you can see the full picture. For example, just like this short-term bearish movement, just like this short-term, okay, before the bulls take over again. Okay, and like, as I mentioned, from daily, for the bears to take over entirely, here we go. We need to see a break below this rising broadening wedge. We need to see this movement like this. In this case, we'll be expecting further bearish movement. So that's it. We're watching closely this break higher or break lower, which would be the exact opposite on US 500, a break below these lows, or a reversal, a break above this high or above this low on the XY. If you go to USD dominance, you can see also a low, you can see a high on Bitcoin, right? So like as you can see, that's how you feel like sorry, entire market. Okay, if you go to the USD dominance, we can see that we are currently stuck inside this little range. Okay, and we have been stuck inside it for a while. The more this range goes, the higher the chance that we will get a breakout either upward or downward. Okay, so like, of course, like, we are hoping, because we want the crypto market to go up. For it to go up, we are hoping that USD dominance would break this range downward. Okay, and of course, we also got a channel that we can see better from H4, so it would break below this channel and also this low and also this support and resistance. Then and only then we can say that, yeah, the bears might be kicking in. Okay, for now, of course, this is just a short-term movement upward and downward while trading the range until eventually it's broken. The exact same thing for USD dominance. If we break above this resistance, it wouldn't be good at all. We'll be expecting further bullish movements. As you can see, it has been holding pretty much for a while and lately as well. So from 7.8 to 8%. And for now, we're expecting a reversal, a rejection of these highs, okay? If you go to H4, that's the view here, that's the entire range. You can see it even better, up, down, up, down, up, down, right? So if you remember previously, we expected this, and of course, like last week, we expected this if we break above this, all right? Now, we are waiting for this to be broken to expect this bearish movement. Meanwhile, we can trade higher and trade inside the 7.8 to 8 before we reverse and trade lower. Okay, that's pretty much it. That's the channel I told you about from daily time frame. For the best to take full control here, we need to see this break below what? Three things: this little range, this green big support resistance, and this trend line right here. So three things, and it would be like this. Okay, for now, let's take it step by step. We are still here. Okay, if you go to H1 time frame, okay, so like if you remember last week, we were here and we're waiting for the bulls to take over. By breaking above it, we had the break, a retest, we traded higher, we had our impulse, correction, impulse, and we are currently stuck here. Let's see if we will get one more impulse. So as you can see, we are currently in this phase, right? Which would be very similar to what? To this phase. Okay, so we might still break it upwards and trade higher to make one more impulse movement inside this resistance zone before we finally form a new low and break it down, and voila. Okay, for now, it's very important to watch the price action. For the bears to take over, we need to see a break below the trend line, one. Second, below this low right here. Okay, these lows lining up with this high and so on. Okay, that's it for USD dominance. The exact opposite, of course, for Bitcoin. If you go to daily time frame, we are still stuck inside this big range, and this exact range we saw like on the higher bounds from USD dominance, we can see it on the lower bounds on Bitcoin, right? So this entire range, and you already see these three support resistance. You can see them here as well. We're currently trading around the upper bound USDT and around the lower bound of Bitcoin. And we're also, just like USD dominance, approaching the lower bound, USD dominance approaching the upper bound, and blah, 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 right? So that's it. That's the situation. We are currently around the 18K. If we break it down, it wouldn't be good at all. Okay. We'll be then expecting further bearish movements till around the 10 to 12K, which would be our next demand zone. In fact, 10 to 12K is a massive, massive zone. It's a resistance, as you clearly see, a very clean one, multiple rejections from, and then a support right here, right? A support now because it's broken upward, and also it's a demand zone because we had the bullish movement starting from here. So we went from 10 to 20K straight, right? So as you can see, straight line from here, that's why that's a demand zone. And of course, like we've got many orders sitting right here. Also, it's a round number, right? So it's a 10K round number. You can see it even better if you go and zoom out to monthly time frame. Let me make them appear. Oops, not this one, this one. On monthly, you can see it very, very clearly from there. That's it, right? So you can clearly see how aggressive the movement from here was, right? So that's the only bearish candle, of course, from monthly, from this big bullish movement, and previously at resistance and so on. So that's basically it. And of course, like it's an entire zone, as you clearly see this entire bearish candle. So starting from 12.5 to 10, this is the entire zone as a zone. If you go back to weekly, that's the view here. You can see pretty much this chart, this price action on almost all all altcoins. You can see a big drop, a consolidation, and we are currently here testing the previous low. You can see it, for example, let's go to Avax, right? So you can see it on Avax, the exact same thing, a drop, consolidation, currently retesting the previous low, currently around the rejection zone, and so on. Okay, so for the bulls to take over from a long-term perspective, long story short, we need to see a break above this high. Okay, the exact same thing for Bitcoin. Where is Bitcoin? That's it. This is the high while retesting the previous low. Okay, and yeah, that's basically it. If we break below the 18K, we'll be expecting further bearish movement. We will break below this low. This low hasn't been broken yet. Okay, if it's broken, it wouldn't be good. Expect further pain. On daily time frame, can't really add much as I showed you previously. Currently approaching the lower bound. On H4 time frame, this is where the magic happens. So we've got multiple keys that we are looking for. First, inside this big range from daily, we are stuck inside a smaller range from H4. We are trading here up and down the exact same range we saw from from USDT dominance, except that this is exactly the opposite, right? So we are currently trading inside this range as you clearly see, and of course, for those who remember, we have been trading the range lately or last week. We waited for this one to be broken down, for the bears to take over, and we're applying the same logic now. For the bulls to take over, we need to see a break above the previous high, which we'll see better now on H1. But previously, if you remember, also we had this break, we traded higher, this break traded lower. Now we have this high right here. Anyway, I'll show it to you better. For now, we can still trade lower till around this area before we trade higher, which would be USD dominance diving inside the resistance zone before trading lower. So that's it. If you trade lower on Bitcoin or if you trade higher on USDT dominance, it would be the same thing before we trade lower again on your Bitcoin. That's it. We can trade lower, form a new swing high here, and then break it upward and trade higher. So as long as we are above the 18K, above this structure, above this zone in green, we are fine. The bulls can still kick in. Of course, this is just from a short-term perspective as long as we are here. Okay, so for the bulls to take over from a long-term perspective, we need to see a break above 25 or even 30K. For now, we are here. For the bulls to take over from a medium-term perspective, we need to see a break above this, which, as you can see, price has been struggling around for a while, multiple rejections from it. So that's it for Bitcoin. If you zoom into H1 time frame, this is the view that we can see. Previously, if you remember this zone, price broke above this high and traded higher. Price broke below this low, traded lower. While applying the same logic and starting from here, for example, price started to make higher lows, higher highs, consolidation, break below the low. Now lower lows, lower highs, lower lows. So that's it. As you can see, price is failing to break above the previous high. That's our last high for now. If you break it upward, we'll be expecting what? Higher lows, higher highs, right? Until eventually the previous low is broken downward and so on. So let me remove these ones real quick. Okay, fantastic. As mentioned, if you trade lower, we'll be waiting for something like this and then for the bulls to take over. And in fact, we'll just be updating this zone to be, for example, this zone right here. Because previously I had it here and then we traded lower, I moved it to here. And now if you trade lower, I'll move it to here and so on. Okay. Yeah, let's put it back there. Fantastic. Now, if you go to Ethereum, you can see a very similar logic, a very similar channel that we see here, the exact same one in red or in orange here. You know what? Since it's in orange there, let's make it an orange. So that's the exact same channel here and here. Okay. Let's go back to weekly, okay, to test it out real quick to check the overall view before we zoom into lower time frames. Now we are currently trading here inside these two support and resistance between 1K and 1.5K. Okay, if you zoom into daily time frame, we can see it better. 2K, 1K, 1.5. And we are currently around this minus supply resistance. So if we break it down, if we break below the 1250, of course, from daily, we'll be expecting further bearish movement till around 1K, where we'll be looking, of course, here for buy setups. Of course, unless it's broken down, and then it wouldn't be good for Ethereum. But let's take it step by step. For now, we can still reject this little area unless broken down, okay? From a long-term perspective, for the bulls to take over, I would like to see not a break above this, but also a break above what? 1.5K and the upper trend line, okay? Because even if we trade higher, break above this high, trade higher like this, we can still trade lower from here because we've got a resistance zone. 1, 2, and we might have a third one, right? Look for buy stops here short term, and then here we go. The bulls will take over. Okay. Anyway, let's take it step by step. On H4 time frame, we are currently stuck inside this symmetric triangle, and it's getting narrower and narrower, right? So you can see that we had a big swing, a smaller one, and that's why you can see a symmetric triangle. Okay, it's getting narrower. So eventually we'll have the break upward or downward. If we break it downward, break below the symmetric triangle, it wouldn't be enough. I would like to see a break below this 1200, like for extra confirmation, because price can still trade like this and then trade higher. Okay, so I would like to see this full break, then we'll be expecting this movement, or this break. It would be an early alert that the buyers are taking over, but I would like to see also a break above this area for the bulls to take over. From a short-term perspective, the exact same thing we saw in Bitcoin. That's it. That's our zone. Okay, you can make it a little bit higher or lower like this. Okay, so this entire zone, I would like to see a break above this previous major high and also above this trend line, which would happen at the same time if we break it. If we break it upward, that's basically it. While waiting for this, it's very similar to this high right here. Okay, this high was broken. This little one is broken, but we still need a break above this one, which happened to be like in the same candle. So I'm still waiting for this one to for extra confirmation. That's it. Meanwhile, okay, of course, we can still, because like this is an entire zone from here till here. Meanwhile, we can still reject this trend line, trade lower. So 1, 2, and 3. That's it. Before the bulls take over, and by breaking above the previous high, or we can still trade lower and lower and lower and break the 1200 downwards. Okay, that's it for Ethereum. And yeah, like now we're done with our first part. Let's go go over the altcoins. Of course, we'll start with NWC, and of course, let me check if Joseph is here. Okay, like Joseph is not here, but anyway, we'll go over Galatasaray because because he's keeping an eye on it. So I could update it like really quick and see it like even though it says stock, but I added it because like Mac requested it, dear boss requested it, and then we'll go over as much as I can. So if you want me to go over a specific one, please let me know in the members talk, okay? First, let's go over NWC, Newscrypto. We can see that we are trading inside this big channel and brown. So for the bulls to take over from a long-term perspective, as you see here, we need to see a break above this high right here and above the 0.2, which is for now a support and resistance acting as a resistance. So this break would mean that the bulls are breaking above anything that might hold it down. Okay, this break would mean this long-term bullish movement. For now, okay, we are forming the third swing around this channel. So 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so like which is done. And now we are approaching what? You can see it from daily even better, this demand zone. Okay, we rejected it once, and we are currently retesting this area. So what we will do, we'll be looking for bar setups. If you go to H4 time frame, and if you remember last week, we were around this area and we were waiting for a break above the zone. That's why my alert is still here for the bulls to take over. Okay, sorry about that. So I'm still waiting for this break. We already got our trend line 1, 2, and 3. Waiting for a break above like 0.115. In this case, we'll be expecting a short-term bullish movement. Meanwhile, you can see my alert also here. If we retest the demand zone, I'll be looking for short-term buy setups. Of course, unless we break this demand zone downward, then we'll be expecting further bearish movement till this area is support and resistance, where we'll be looking for buy stops here. But let's take it step by step for now. And you can even see this high and low very clearly from daily. Let me show it to you. That's it. Support, broken downward, now resistance. So if you break it upward, we'll be expecting this bullish movement. Okay. Fantastic, Mark. Thank you for the confirmation. DJ, if you can take a look at the FX. Okay, I'm not really sure what this one is. I never heard of it, but yes, we'll go over it. And if you find a chart which is not starting at UV listing. Okay, anyway, let's check it out. The FX. The FX crypto. Okay, UV. Oh, okay. I can't really say much. Okay, because we don't have enough data. Okay, let me zoom into H1, maybe. Okay, I can't really say much, DJ, about this one, but we know that I think this one started here. We had a big low and a high, but price failed to make a low, instead made an equal low. So this one is now the last high, this entire zone. So let's mark it. That's it. Okay. Oops. This one. Okay, so this is it. And so for the boost to take over, we need to see a breakup of it. But since we had these big wicks previously, which I don't personally like when it happens, of course, like this break is not enough, to confirm it. So this is why for this one, I would be waiting for this break above this, okay, above this previous major high, because usually I would go for this, but since we have these big nasty wicks, I'll go for this one. Meanwhile, if we trade lower, we will get this minus 2 point resistance as a support, as we have a double bottom previously. So we are currently basically trading inside this range. If we trade lower, we'll be looking for a short-term buy. Unless we break it down, we'll be expecting further bearish movements. Okay, that's it for the FX. We can also look at BNB. Oh, of course, Mark. We'll go over BNB now. Oh. Okay, DJ. I'll add it to my list, to my crypto 3 list. Okay, great. Yeah, I thought the OPEC new would have given a bump. I'm not really sure about this product. Okay, so now let's go for BNB as Mark requested it. Anyway, I already have it here. So let's first go for Galatasaray and for seeds, and then go over BNB. Okay. Okay, so we don't really have much updates here. Around the 2-round number, around this support zone. We have this channel, like last week we were here, that's why they start from here. So now we are still waiting for this break, which didn't happen, as you clearly see. So no break, no entry. Let's delete it. Delete this. What is this area? Okay, oh yeah, okay. Let's delete it. No longer helpful. Let's delete these ones. We are left with this one. So I'll keep this area, and I will adjust my level or my arrow from here. So for the booster takeover, we need to see a break above this area. We are currently testing the previous lows right here, waiting for this movement upward for the booster takeover. Meanwhile, we can trade higher, make a new high before breaking it upward. But this is the major high I'm keeping an eye on. This is from a short-term perspective. Later on, when we trade higher, we'll have this supply that might push the price lower. Okay, so we need to see a break above it for the boost to take over from a medium-term perspective. So short-term perspective, medium-term perspective. And of course, meanwhile, until the buyers take over, we can still trade lower and lower and lower. Okay, seed for Mac, for the boss. Weekly, can't really add much for the boost to take over. From a long-term perspective, I'm still waiting for this break above the 14. In this case, we'll be expecting a bullish movement. On daily time frame, we are bullish, and we are currently inside this channel. So I'm still waiting for something like this to happen, to buy short term. If we break it downward, then we'll be breaking below the channel. We'll be expecting a bearish movement. So that's it for seed. We don't really have much updates for today. Okay, on BNB now. BNB is sitting inside the support and resistance from weekly time frame. These are the major ones, around 300, 340, and around 200, or from 180 to 220, this entire support zone. So like now, since we had the hack, we can see that previously, okay, sorry about that, again and again, we had this channel, and like due to the hack, we had a break below it, and we are trading lower. Previously also, we had a break below this minor supply resistance, also a a lower high, a low, a major low, broken downward, break below this channel. Okay, these are all signals that the bears are taking over. So anyway, this is from a short-term perspective. On daily time frame, we are currently sitting around this area, which is around 260. You can even, if you want, make it a little bit smaller for it to be cleaner. That's it. Okay, we are currently retesting it. So yes, we are still fine. The boost can still kick in from here. Okay, unless it's broken downward. If it's broken downward, that wouldn't be good. Okay, because just like previously, broken downward, trade it lower. Okay, so we don't want this break below this one. In this case, we'll be expecting a movement till this area here, till around 220, or even worse, inside the zone. Okay, so that's basically it. Like if you want, just like Ethereum, we have a midway. We are currently at the upper bound and the lower bound, right? Let's make it also a little bit smaller. That's it. So looking for bust stops here, unless we have the break. In this case, we'll be expecting bearish movement. That's why I see my alert here. So I want to know if we will have the break. My alert here for the buys to take over. My alert here for the buys to take over long term. Of course, from a long-term perspective, we need to see, we need to see a break above this area right here. From H4, can't really add much. From lower time frames from H1, we can see that this low is broken downward due to the hack, as you see here. Then we had a retest to it, and then we traded lower. So now we are bearish, lower lows, lower highs. We were bullish previously, high lows, higher highs, broken downward, bearish now, lower lows, lower highs. Okay, so for the boost to take over, we apply the same logic. We need a break above the previous major high, which is currently this one, but I would personally like to go for this because it's bigger and it resulted with a lower low. For this high is only the result of a higher low. So usually a lower low, this high would be stronger than than this high. Okay, lower low, higher low. This is stronger than this one. Okay, so that's why I'll go for the upper one for extra confirmation, and that would be it. For the boost to take over, we need to see a breakup of this, and we can also draw like a channel here, offset for it. That's it. Okay, we're currently trading inside this channel. We are bearish. We can trade lower and lower and lower, meanwhile, until the bulls take over. If we trade lower from here, I'll be updating my channel like this. If we keep on trading lower, I'll be updating my channel like this, and so on. Okay, meanwhile, we are bearish short term, but around a minor support, which is in blue. Let's see how it goes. Okay. Okay. Sustain Empire, hope you're doing good. Happy to see you here. And Joseph, we just went over we just went over your token, Galatasaray, this one. Okay, so like since you are here, like long story short, we'll be waiting for the boost to take over. We are still waiting for the boost to take over by breaking above this high. So no updates for now. Okay. BNB done. Let's go to XRP, right? Okay. Yes, exactly, Bukar and Mark, since like because of the hack, BNB dipped hard, as we clearly saw from the chart. Danny, hope you're doing good. And Rose, yeah, I guess like I said already, hi to Rose, but anyway, hi again. Let's continue with our XRP. If you remember, as mentioned last week, we got our resistance zone between 0.5 and 0.6. So for the booster takeover, we need to see a break above it. In this case, we'll be expecting a long-term bullish movement. For now, we are still around this area. I don't want to see this one here. It's annoying. Let's remove it. Fantastic. So we're currently around this area here. We can still trade higher, but this is actually a resistance. So for the bulls to take over long-term or to fully take over, we need to see a break above the 0.6. That's why my alert is right here. Meanwhile, we are bullish, right? Until the last low is broken downward. If the last low is broken downward, well, this is our next support, which is also a demand. If you go to H4, we are clearly bullish. We are still bullish. Impulse correction, impulse correction. So if the bulls would take over, we need to see a break. What is it? A break above this high right here, just like what happened here, if you remember. Anyway, let me show it to you from H1. Okay, this high right here got broken, we traded higher. The exact same logic, let's move this one till here. That's it. But like I made it a little bit higher because to cover these ones. That's it. Okay, so if you break above it, like above like 0.50, like 506, 507.8, around this area, the bulls would take over and will be expecting a bullish movement. However, if we break below this major low right here, okay, if we break below it now, we'll be expecting what? Further bearish move, because we would break below this rising channel. Okay, so like this is basically it. If you break this, we'll be seeing this movement. If you break this, we'll be seeing this movement. Okay, next, let's go for RVN. On RVN, since like the second phase of our session today is supposed to be about supply and demand, so I've added some supply and demand examples. And of course, like it's always practical, right? So on RVN, we previously had a demand zone right here, which you can clearly see an aggressive movement upward from this area. So which makes the consolidation before the impulse movement the entire base. So that's it. Okay, as you see, price went up, that's a demand, retested it and traded higher from it. Okay, we're applying the same logic now. We have an aggressive movement upward from here. That's why this is a demand zone. Okay, so as price retests it, we'll be looking for buy setups. Okay, that's it for the demand. For the supply, as you see here, we had an aggressive movement down from it, which makes it a supply, right? And inside this big movement, okay, try to find one more aggressive movement downward. That's it. Exactly. Okay. So this is also an aggressive movement downward, which makes what? Also this area as a supply zone, this entire zone. And as you see, price rate higher, filled it, traded lower, just like the previous supply, which was this entire range before the aggressive movement happened. Filled it, traded lower. Anyway, for now, let's update it. That's it. We had two demand zones, in fact, here. The first one was here. Okay, but as you can see, price broke it down. So not every demand is like foolproof or like it's like bulletproof. Okay, so no matter how strong it is, it can still be broken down or upwards. That's why we don't buy blindly around the demand. We zoom into lower time frames and look for setups. Let me give you an example. If you zoom into H4 time frame, we can see that previously we had a demand here. So let me draw it. So as price retests it, I was looking for buy setup. So I was waiting for the bulls to take over. But as you see, lower highs, lower highs, lower highs. So no break above the last major high. That's why this demand is broken downward. So it's no longer acting as a demand and no longer effective. So I deleted it. And now we've got what? This next demand, which is still fresh. So as price retests it, as we approach it, the more the better. We'll be looking for buy setups. That's why anyway you see my alert right here at the beginning of the demand zone. I have to know that the price is now diving inside this demand zone. So yeah, I was waiting for this break previously, it didn't happen. Now we are bearish. We are trading inside this channel right here. Let's make it in red, offset for it. That's it. A very clean channel. For the bulls to take over, we need to see what? We need to see this break like this, and then we can like buy RVM, and we can update this area to be like this. So now I'm waiting for this, a new high, and then a break above it, then the bulls will take over, or even this movement, for example, and then the buyers will take over. That's our first demand zone example. Our second example is on Avax. We can clearly see a massive one on daily time frame. Okay. Previously, if you want on weekly, of course, we had multiple demand zones. First, we had this demand. Okay. So a rally, oops, a rally, a base, rally. So that's a demand from 10 to 15. And as you see, price retested it and traded higher. Okay, since we had an aggressive movement upward from here, that's now a demand. And guess what? Price is retesting it. Okay, that's first. Second, we've got what? We've got this demand right here because impulse, consolidation, and aggressive movement upward, that's a demand. And as you can see, price, oops, filled it and traded higher. Okay, that's it. Now, demand, it's still fresh, price is retesting it. Also, like just like Bitcoin, a low now as price is retesting this low, looking for buy stops on lower time frames to catch this small bullish movement. But from a long-term perspective, this is our last major high that we want the price to break above for the bulls to take over from a long-term perspective. That's our low and high from daily. It looks better. Currently retesting this previous low, which you can see starting from here. So yeah, we can still dive inside the zone before trading higher. That's why you see my alert here as well. And you can see one here for this high and one here for this high. Okay, so sorry about that. From a short-term perspective, that's why you see this alert right here. You can see it from H4 better. We are trading inside this channel, waiting for the bulls to take over. So I'm waiting for something like this to happen. But basically, I would like to see a break above this area. Meanwhile, until the bulls take over, we can still trade lower and lower before breaking it up. In this case, of course, we'll be updating our analysis. If, for example, we trade lower, trade lower, we'll be waiting for this, for example, and then we'll buy on swing upward. So that's basically it for Avax. Now let me check if you want some requests. Okay, let me check. Okay, if you want to go over a specific coin, let me know in the members talk. Like we still have like 10 minutes. I try to go over as much as possible, and I keep an eye on the requests as well. Okay, let me check. Okay, let's go to ATC. And you know what? I'll go for them by order, unless some of you request something, in the members talk, then I will do it. On ATC, we also have a demand zone. As you clearly see, why it's a demand? Because we had an aggressive movement from here. Okay, it's a rally, a consolidation or a base, then a rally. And price is currently testing this demand. That's why we'll be looking for bust ups, of course, unless it's broken downward. In this case, further bearish move would be expected, and this would be our next support zone, which we can see better if we zoom out. Okay. But for now, let's take it step by step. The bulls can still kick in from here and break above the previous high. The exact same thing we saw on Ravencoin or RVN. For the bulls to take over, we need to see a break above the previous high. For now, it's here. Let's make it, I don't know why it's in purple. Let's make it in gray. For example, like this, and then the bulls will take over. From a short-term perspective, of course, you also got this high. So if you break it upward, the bulls will take over from a short-term perspective, and then here from a medium-term perspective. Okay, on OP, we broke below this support. Now it's a resistance around round number 1. Now the next support is around the 0.5 to 0.6. This entire support, which is also a demand, this is also a demand, right? So we're looking for buy setups right here, knowing that price can still dive inside the zone before trading higher. If you go to H4 time frame, we also can see a very similar channel, just like ETC and RVN. That's it, a trend line pushing price lower. This is our next support. So yeah, we'll be expecting a very similar movement, just like this. And here's the offset for the channel. Okay, waiting for the bullish to take over by breaking above the last high on the upper trend line. On STX, okay, this was from last week. We're still waiting for this break. Didn't happen. That's the power of waiting for extra confirmation for the bulls to take over first before you jump in. No matter how strong is a support, no matter how strong is like the overall trend, the rejection, whatever, always wait for the bulls to take over before you jump in. Weekly time frame, already around the strong support 0.3, that's our resistance 0.5. For the bullish to take over from a long-term perspective, we need to see this break. From a short-term perspective, we need to see a break above, okay, like this is from a long-term, as you saw from weekly. From a short-term, we need to see this break above this one right here, which didn't happen yet. On Matic, we are currently retesting this medium-term resistance and support, also a demand, as we had an aggressive movement upward from here. If we break it downward, it wouldn't be good. We'll be expecting further bearish movement. And for the bulls to take over here, we need to see this movement like this, and then a break above this high. Okay, that's for Matic. On XLM, the exact same thing. Waiting for the bulls to take over. We are still waiting for it, so let's update it. That's it. We have a double bottom forming. If we trade lower again to this lower area, I'll be looking for shorter buy setups right here, just like previously, here and here, because we are currently around a strong demand zone. That's it. Aggressive movement upward from here. Let me check the comments. Okay. If you want to ask about a specific coin, let me know. I would be happy to do it. Meanwhile, I'll just continue with my list. On Algo, we are retesting also the support and resistance, as you see, around 0.2. On lower time frames, we are currently inside this range. As we trade lower, that's why you see alert here and alert here, and also midway between the two. But now approaching this lower one, I'll be looking for buy stops on lower time frames. If it's broken downward, we'll be expecting further bearish movement at the 0.2 zone. If you go to H4, that's it. We can draw this channel right here. That's it. So as we trade lower, lower, I'll be looking for buy stops, and of course, this buy above the channel. Cheers. CRV as well. We are still bearish, waiting for the bulls to take over, and now we can even draw. Okay, let me show you from daily better. You know what? Let's delete this one. It's annoying already, and show you this one right here. That's it. For the bulls to take over, as mentioned last week, if you remember, we were waiting for this break, didn't happen. So I'm still waiting for it. Meanwhile, don't really have much to say. We are bearish and we can still trade lower. In this case, we'll be looking for buy stops down there. Okay, for now, I'm waiting for this break above the trend line and above this last high, which is also running up the previous lows. Okay, EOS, nice. Okay, very nice pick. Joseph, where is it? I guess we have it here. Yeah, that's it. Okay, you can see my two alerts right here, but let me go over it. Here we go. So on EOS, we are testing a massive zone, as you see, like around the all-time lows and around number 1. So looking for buy setups. Okay, can't really say much for now, except that we've got this channel, which we saw on many altcoins like ETC, Ravencoin, and many more, Avax, and so on. forming this channel and also OP. So you can see this channel all over the place. So for the bullish takeover, we need to see a break above it. For now, that's our last high. That's why I had my alert previously here, waiting for the break. Didn't happen, kept moving lower. And we also got this one right here, which is this high. This explains my two alerts. Meanwhile, we are bearish and I'm not interested in buying. We can still trade lower and lower. Okay, Joseph. Let's go back to our list and we've got Reef. Yeah, since Bukhari requested it last time, I kept it on the list. As mentioned last week, for the bullish takeover, we need to see a full daily candle above this area, which didn't happen yet. As you see, rejections multiple times. So I'm still waiting for a full candle above this area. Meanwhile, we can still trade lower from here. That's why we have this one. If you trade lower, I'll be looking for buy stops here because why? We have a demand zone, right? Which is the section of today, an aggressive movement upwards from here. So if you trade lower, looking for buy stops, or if we have a daily candle close above this area, the bulls would take over, of course, like short term, and the movement till this zone would be expected. Yeah, I also requested block, right, Bukhari. So I'm still waiting for this break above this high right here for the bulls to take over. Now, since we are retesting what? A demand zone. Yeah, that's it. A demand zone, which is this one in orange. Let me adjust it. Anyway, it's lining up with these highs, so let's keep it. That's entire demand zone right here. Okay, this entire zone will be looking for buy stops on lower time frames. From a short-term perspective, we are bearish, and that's our last minor high. So for both take over, we need to see a break above it. In this case, a short-term bullish movement would be expected. And then later on, from a long-term perspective, I'm still waiting for a break above this high right here. It would be a giant head and shoulders pattern like this. Left, head, and the right might be here. Okay. Anyway, let's see how it goes. Okay. So that's basically it. I'll also go over like one or two, and that would be it. If you want to request one last coin, let me know. On Lina, we are retesting the lower band. I'm still waiting for this break. Didn't happen, obviously. So let's move it aside. I'm waiting for these two phases. First one, second one. Meanwhile, I don't recommend any entries here because as you see, this one is melting badly. But for those who would like to go for a risky short term one, can apply the same logic. Bears took over, played it lower, so previously higher lows, broken, traded lower. Now what? Lower lows. Right, so low lows, lower highs. As you see, the highs are not being able to be broken. For the bulls to take over for now, we need to see. Here we go. That's it. Fantastic. This high right here as a short-term bullish movement. Meanwhile, we would be bearish. Okay, Polkadot. Let's go for Polkadot. That's our. I guess we have dots on the list. Yeah, that's it. Okay, on dots, also what? A demand zone, exactly. Around 5, an aggressive movement upward from here, looking for buy setups. That's our last high, major high from daily. So we'll be looking for buy setups here if we have this break, of course, from a long-term perspective. From a short-term perspective, I'm still waiting for this high, which is, here we go. Okay, that's it. Let's move it aside, waiting for the break above this one. Or if you want extra confirmation, let's wait for the 7. Okay, above the 7 for the bulls to take over. Meanwhile, we would be bearish and we can still trade lower till around the 5. That's why you see my alert right here. Okay. Okay, went over all of these, right? So went over this big list till around like, okay, I'll go over link and that would be it. Yeah, Weekly time frame around the support zone 5 to 10. For the post takeover from a long-term perspective, I need to see a break above the 10. In fact, you can see many alerts already here, right? So I want to know every single movement of link. So for the post takeover, I want to see a break above the 10. That's from a long-term perspective. Meanwhile, if we trade lower, I want to look for buy stops here, as you can see around this area. Yeah, that's basically it. Also, I want to know when it breaks above this and this. But of course, like from a long-term perspective, I want to see a break above the 10 or to look for buy stops here. Okay. So that's basically it for this session. Happy to see you guys here. Many members. Wishing you a lovely night. We've got Bukarik, Danny, Jabs, Joseph, DJ, of course, Mark, the admin, Rose, Sonjak, Sustain Empire, and Ushenna. Glad to see you all here, guys. Wishing you a lovely night, and let's see now what FOMC will bring us. Be safe, stay safe, and I'll see you hopefully next week, same day and same time. Okay. Okay. Ishanna, DJ, Joseph, Jabs, Sonjak. Wow, you guys are amazing. I'm glad that you are happy and you are enjoying these sessions. Of course, like I guess, like as usual, Mark will initiate the draw, the robot for the draw. So best of luck and congrats for the winners in advance. And hopefully I will see you next Wednesday. If you have any questions, like during the week, don't worry, like just ask it in the general I guess what general chat, okay, channel, and I would be happy to support you during the week as well. Okay, best of luck, have a peaceful night, and see you soon, hopefully.